They were made of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet stuff, with cherubim skillfully worked. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains had the same measure. And he coupled 5 curtains to one another, and the other 5 curtains he coupled to one another. And he made loops of blue on the edge of the outmost curtain of the first set. Likewise, he made them on the edge of the outmost curtain of the second set. He made 50 loops on the one curtain, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that was in the second set. The loops were opposite one another. And he made 50 clasps of gold, and coupled the curtains one to the other with clasps, so that the tabernacle was one whole. He also made curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. He made 11 curtains. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains had the same measure. He coupled 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the outmost curtain of the one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the other connecting curtain. And he made 50 clasps of bronze to couple the tent together, that it might be one whole. And he made for the tent a covering of tanned ram's skins and goat skins. Then he made the upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits was the length of the frame, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each frame. Each frame had 2 tenons for fitting together. He did this for all the frames of the tabernacle. The frames for the tabernacle he made thus: 20 frames for the south side, and he made 40 bases of silver under the 20 frames, 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under another frame for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, he made 20 frames and their 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under another frame. And for the rear of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 frames. And he made 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear, and they were separate beneath, but joined at the top, at the first ring. He made 2 of them thus for the 2 corners. There were 8 frames, with their bases of silver, 16 bases under every frame, 2 bases. And he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the tabernacle at the rear westward. And he made the middle bar to pass from end to end halfway up the frames. And he overlaid the frames with gold. And he made their rings of gold for holders for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. And he made the veil of blue and purple and scarlet stuff and fine twined linen. With cherubim skillfully worked he made it. And for it he made 4 pillars of acacia, and overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were of gold, and he cast for them 4 bases of silver. He also made a screen for the door of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet stuff and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework, and its 5 pillars with their hooks. He overlaid their capitals, and their fillets were of gold, but their 5 bases were of bronze. The book of Leviticus, chapter 25. The sabbatical year. The Lord said to Moses on Mount Sinai, "Say to the sons of Israel, when you come into the land which I give you, the land shall keep a Sabbath to the Lord. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, and gather in its fruits. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest for the land, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. What grows of itself in your harvest you shall not reap, and the grapes of your undressed vine you shall not gather. It shall be a year of solemn rest for the land. The Sabbath of the land shall provide food for you, for yourself and for your male and female slaves, and for your hired servant and the sojourner who lives with you, for your cattle also, and for the beasts that are in the land. All its yield shall be for food. The year of Jubilee. And you shall count 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the time of 7 weeks of years shall be to you 49 years. Then you shall send abroad the loud trumpet on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall send abroad the trumpet throughout all your land. And you shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty through all the land, in all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his family. A jubilee shall that 50th year be to you. In it you shall neither sow nor reap what grows of itself, nor gather the grapes from the undressed vines. For it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You shall eat what it yields out of the field. In this year of jubilee, each of you shall return to his property. And if you sell to your neighbor, or buy from your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another. According to the number of years after the jubilee, you shall buy from your neighbor, and according to the number of years for crops, he shall sell to you. If the years are many, you shall increase the price. But if the years are few, you shall diminish the price, for it is the number of crops that he is selling to you. You shall not wrong one another, but you shall fear your God, for I am the Lord your God. Therefore, you shall do my statutes, and keep my ordinances, and perform them, so you will dwell in the land securely. The land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill, and dwell in it securely. And if you say, what shall we eat in the 7th year, if we may not sow or gather in our crop? I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, so that it will bring forth fruit for 3 years. When you sow in the 8th year, you will be eating old produce until the 9th year. When its produce comes in, you shall eat the old. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. For you are strangers and sojourners with me, and in all the country you possess, you shall grant a redemption of the land. If your brother becomes poor and sells part of his property, then his next of kin shall come and redeem what his brother has sold. If a man has no one to redeem it, and then himself becomes prosperous and finds sufficient means to redeem it, let him reckon the years since he sold it and pay back the overpayment to the man to whom he sold it, and he shall return to his property. But if he has not sufficient means to get it back for himself, then what he sold shall remain in the hand of him who bought it until the year of Jubilee. In the year of Jubilee it shall be released, and he shall return to his property. If a man sells a dwelling house in a walled city, he may redeem it within a whole year after its sale. For a full year he shall have the right of redemption. If it is not redeemed within a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be made sure in perpetuity to him who bought it throughout his generations. It shall not be released in the Jubilee. But the houses of the villages which have no wall around them shall be reckoned with the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall be released in the Jubilee. Nevertheless, the cities of the Levites, the houses in the cities of their possession, the Levites may redeem at any time. And if one of the Levites does not exercise his right of redemption, then the house that was sold in a city of their possession shall be released in the Jubilee. For the houses in the cities of the Levites are their possession among the sons of Israel. But the fields of common land belonging